Phil, where do we start? Well, I think we have to start with the Champions League games last night and Manchester United's performance in Seville. It's coming for an awful lot of criticism. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it's coming for a lot of criticism because I think everybody expected United to go the same way as City, as Liverpool, as the other English clubs are getting good results, positive results. I think it is a good result, but I don't think the performance was good enough. And if it wasn't for a goalkeeper in David De Gea, they could have come away with a defeat.
Did you really expect Man United to go away and play like Liverpool did, like Manchester City did? Because we've seen Man United so often go away from home and try and be tactically defensive and sit back and soak up pressure. That's exactly what happened.
No, but I expected them to win the game. And I think, you know, some of the criticism this morning, we'll probably go into it a little bit later, which I think is a little bit unfair, is that people thought that Seville would just roll over and just let United score 2 or 3 goals. Seville are a good side. You know, we've seen already this season the qualities in the Champions League, so it was never going to be an easy game. Their stadium is an old-fashioned stadium. It's tight, it's old, the atmosphere is great, and they've got good players. But what I would say, and the disappointment for me from that Manchester United performance last night was, and it's been probably like that all season, the intent to score goals and attack is just not there. Yes, you can set up defensively, organised, but it's that counter-attack with quality. And I think, at times, Jose's been let down by the big players in the team.
Interesting. The stats suggest that it was one-way traffic.
Yeah.
25 attempts to just 6 for United, and only 1 on target compared to Seville's 8. They had more possession, more corners, and touches in the opposition box, more than double that Man United had.
Yeah.
They were indebted, I think it's fair to say, to a massive performance from the goalkeeper, David De Gea.
Again, I mean, you're talking about someone in a Man United side that I think's been inconsistent this season, a lot of the players, where he has been consistent. And it's not just this season. I'd say the last 3 or 4 seasons. He's without doubt the best goalkeeper in Europe. I think his composure and his ability in the big games to make big saves, and looking like those saves are easy, I think is his biggest strength. But when you go to an away ground, particularly when you're a big club like Man United, you expect to dominate possession. But look at that, 43% to United, 56% to Seville. And Seville dominated. Seville probably after the game, their manager would thinking, we've dominated United, and you know what? We can go to Old Trafford and cause them problems.
Let's talk about David De Gea's future. Is it at Manchester United? Because it seems as though Real Madrid have brought up every year, every transfer window, that they're going to come in for him. I mean, try putting a price on him.
No, you can't put a price on him. You're talking, you know, you talk Pogba levels, Neymar levels. I think he's over the 100 million mark. I think he's that good and that important. He wins United games on his own.
They need him to sign his contract, though, don't they?
My experience of Real Madrid and Manchester United, or Real Madrid chasing a player, is that they might come knocking once, twice, but eventually they always seem to get their man. And I think eventually David De Gea will go back to Real Madrid. But what I would say is that United have got to do everything in their power to keep him there. And I know Jose last season was a little bit, you know, is he in my plans, is he not? He's got to make sure that he stays at United.
And how's he going to do that? What's he going to say to David De Gea? How's he going to convince him to stay at Man United?
Winning Champions Leagues. Winning Champions League, challenging for league titles, winning trophies. United actually have got a good number 2, Sergio Romero. I think he is a fantastic keeper who could be number 1.
But he's not David De Gea.
But he's not David De Gea. He doesn't win matches like David De Gea. He hasn't got the experience of David De Gea. David De Gea will be at the stage of his career now where he wants to win the big trophies with Spain, with Man United, or with his club side.
Is it a happy dressing room at Old Trafford at the moment? I asked the question because of the Paul Pogba situation.
Yeah.
Last 5 games, he's been brought off in 2 of them. He's been on the bench in 2 of them, and he wasn't even involved at Huddersfield in the FA Cup.
Look, it's if you know nothing about football and you're looking from the outside, you can even spot the signs if you know nothing about football. Subbing your biggest player, your biggest signing, in games when you're losing, like against Newcastle. The stories that he didn't report to training the day before the Huddersfield game, then didn't turn up ill for the Huddersfield game in the Cup. And then the biggest game of the season, the Champions League game, you leave him on the bench and bring in a player like Herrera, who's a good player, but hasn't had any action really. He's probably had the same accusations that he's fallen out with Jose during the season, and a young kid in McTominay. I think signs aren't great. Where's Phil Jones? Has he fallen out with the manager? I just think there's too much noise coming out.
Is it the best way to deal with your star player by leaving him out? Or is it the right thing to do and make an example of him to the rest of the squad?
Well, ultimately, if he's not playing well, regardless of the fee, regardless of your ability, regardless of your status in world football, if you're not doing the job for the team, like Paul Pogba didn't do against Tottenham and Newcastle, then you deserve to be left out. I mean, I'm a big fan of that.
So you're saying he's not playing? You don't think he's playing well?
He's not playing well. No, I mean, you watched United against Newcastle up at St James's Park, and you saw a player that was playing within himself. You saw a player against Tottenham that was not doing the right disciplined job for the team in terms of vacating the middle of the pitch, ended up on the right wing, the left wing, which we'll show in the few clips coming up, and not being a team player. And I think Jose Mourinho's whole philosophy is about 11 players that are fighting for the team. That's why Ashley Young is playing at left-back. Probably not because he's the best left-back in the club, but he trusts him and he knows the job he's going to do.
So is it the kick that Paul Pogba needed then?
Well, it's how you react from this. I think Paul Pogba's the type of player, and I saw him in the youth teams, that he, even though he's French, he was brought up with a youth coach that was really tough on him. And he always reacted to being kicked up the backside, to being left out the team, to being challenged. And this is a big challenge for him now, because ultimately, forget Manchester United, Paul Pogba will want to go to the World Cup. And he'll want to go to the World Cup in form. We're getting to that point now where players have to start it in form.
Chelsea this weekend. Chelsea, of course, themselves in European action this week, had a draw against Barcelona. The big question is, does Pogba start then for you this weekend?
Pogba does start. And I said at the start of the conversation we had about Chelsea played against Barcelona. You've got to say that they played deep. They got men behind the ball. They were tactically. And Conte produces a masterclass. Nobody says...
It's Barcelona, it's
nobody
not Sevilla.
says that he parked the bus. Jose does it, and all of a sudden people say he parked the bus. That's where I think sometimes us as pundits, the media in particular, I think he gets a hard time.
But Chelsea were against the team top of La Liga.
Yeah.
Man United were against the team fifth in La Liga.
It doesn't matter. The tactics were the same. I think Barcelona were there to be beat the other night. I've watched a lot of Barcelona this season. They're not the side that they were 6 years ago. They haven't got the speed in the side that they had 6 years ago. And I think they were there to beat. But because, and I agree 100% with the tactics of Conte, it's the criticism and the fact that I think sometimes Jose does get a hard count.
And is it fair? Let's have a look at some of the action then against the big sides in the Premier League. Is he negative then?
Well, that is the criticism. I think he's been criticised for his tactics, and I think this game was the one where he got criticised more than anything for. And they said, we're going to say parking the bus. It's a popular. Well, that's a popular term.
That's pretty deep, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, if you see there, you think, are they parking the bus? Well, Martial's there, and Lukaku's there, so they've actually got a reference up front in terms of counter-attack. And we'll just take it on, because when the minute that the ball gets cleared, and I think this is the biggest problem. So we stop it there now. The biggest problem, I think, in the United team, we've got the two players up front, Lukaku and Martial.
Not close enough.
Maybe can be a little bit closer, looking to get a little bit closer. But it's this distance. It's this distance. How can these midfield players make up this distance? It's too far.
So is he asking his wider players, then, to be too defensive at times?
Well, I think the problem is that because United play deep, and they haven't got the right players in the team. Because if you imagine, if this was Gareth Bale or Mo Salah, I think he could make up that ground. I think he could make up that ground to get close to Lukaku. I think maybe a Ronaldo.
Do you? That is a long way.
It's a long distance. In an ideal world, I would like probably somebody there or somebody there, and we're talking about a link player. We're talking about a link, so there is a pass. And then there is a pass or support up to Lukaku. And
or if the ball does go long, they're there to get the knockdowns.
They're there to get the knockdowns. The ball goes forward, and it's almost simple for them to pick up the second ball. This was against Chelsea early in the season, and this was after the Liverpool game. So he got a lot of criticism for parking the bus at Liverpool, away from home.
Slightly different formation against Chelsea. Played three at the back, didn't he?
Different formation. You get your three centre-backs, Jones, Smalling and Bailly. You got your wing-backs in Young and Valencia, because ultimately they're going sort of like for like because of the system. But I think the difference is that United had players in attacking areas. So they actually, for the first 20 minutes, went for it.
Well, I would say, against the big sides, he tends to do that in the first 15 or 20 minutes. He starts off quickly and gets in their faces and tries to get a goal early.
Well, if you look at that, Rashford, I think Lukaku's ready to lock on, Young's locking on, you've got the two...
So they're pressing early?
They're pressing. And I think if we think about the Arsenal game where they scored two early on, I think the United team is set up to score early and then defend and look to counter-attack. And this is what they did at Stamford Bridge. They started this game absolutely fantastic, on the front foot.
Locked on.
And locked on. And they didn't allow Chelsea any room to play the ball forward, because look at that. It's actually quite good. You've got three defenders back there against Chelsea's 2. And it was, in this game, and we'll go to it in a minute, Hazard has always been the one that he's been worried about most. He's marked him in previous games. Jones done this one. It was Bailly in this game that went close to him with being able to play 3 at the back. This was against Manchester City, where I think this was probably the poorest performance in the big games, and it was the poorest performance. And we'll go back to the Liverpool situation when United defend deep. You know, Sane's there taking on Ashley Young, and the minute that Ashley Young clears it there now, it's that position that we was talking about.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind...
It's too big a gap, isn't it, for the midfield to get up and join him?
It is. And bearing in mind the selection in this game was the front player Lukaku, Rashford, Martial and Lingard. So actually, what I was saying before about having the speed to get up, they had speed in this game.
I'd be slightly critical as well of Romelu Lukaku, his starting position, because if it's down the left-hand side, he knows the only place it's really going is down the left-hand side. So he has to get himself across and in front of Vincent Kompany much quicker.
But let me ask you a question, Matt. If he does make that little run there, who's he going to play it to? So you think of the great Man United sides.
I'm saying get in front of the Man City player, so Vincent Kompany on this occasion, get a hold of it, hold it for 2 or 3 seconds and allow your midfield to get up and join.
But do you think that distance, and we talked about distance before, do you think that distance is actually enough for him to actually control it again, protect it from Vincent Kompany? You've got Otamendi there as well.
I'd suggest that that's his job. That he has to do better. He has to do better.
But do you not have sympathy for Lukaku there, thinking...
Yes.
And let's take it back. When that ball gets cleared now, who's the closest player that can actually get to Romelu Lukaku?
It's Lingard, isn't it?
It's Jesse Lingard.
Or Martial.
Or Martial. That is such a big distance to make up. And I don't care who you are, Diego Costa...
Well, I think Diego Costa does it. I think he does. I think he makes more of a nuisance of himself in this situation than Romelu Lukaku does.
Yeah, but do you not have sympathy for the fact that, actually, he's got an impossible job there? Because if he gets hold of it, who can he pass it to? And like this situation, Young clears it.
And what does he do enough there, Romelu Lukaku?
He doesn't. He doesn't do enough at all. This is another situation where United now, they give it away first, and now they're looking to counter-attack. And when we're talking about Jose being negative, Martial, Lingard, Rashford...
Yeah.
And Lukaku. So that's positive.
That's okay.
That's a positive selection. Rashford goes down the wing, and this is the biggest problem.
Right.
Now.
Stop it there. Because, again, there's the point that you talked about, that gap in here.
Yeah.
Again, where there's no Man United player in that space, in the midfield area where Man City have got people just to pick up the second balls.
Yeah.
5 of them in that situation. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Man United players almost inside their own half.
It's incredible.
So your midfield have got to get up higher.
I think Antonio Valencia can go on. You've got your 2 centre-backs. I think Matic can lock on.
Herrera's just picked up an injury.
But you expect him to be up in this kind of area here. Even Young. The ball is on your side. Get up and get him behind.
Well, it's 6 versus 1 there at the back.
They don't. And when Rashford turns back, even now...
Well, he's got no support. He's got no one in support. I mean, Ashley Young could be up in support of him.
I think this game, possession-wise, was something like 73% to Man City. And this is the reason why. Because every time...
Man City dominated that area.
Every time City won the ball, they dominated the centre of the pitch. And you can say, yes, but who's Matic protecting there? He's actually protecting Smalling his other defender.
How many times did your mate, Paul Scholes, come up and pop up on the edge of the box here and smash one in?
It's unbelievable. And if you're thinking about the best teams in England at the moment at pressing, and you're talking Tottenham and Liverpool, I think they'd be up here. I think they'd be locking on up here. Herrera would be making runs into the box, and all of a sudden, there's no way out. They're almost suffocating the opposition.
Well, always, when it goes down the left-hand side, your full-back, so it's Ashley Young on this occasion, is the one that gets up and supports, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your opposite full-back, Antonio Valencia, sits. If it's on this side, Valencia goes forward, Ashley Young sits, but always gets up and supports. He's 40, 50 yards from Rashford.
But Young, Antonio Valencia
still could lock in.
He can go because you've got the security of Rocco and Smalling back, and I know Herrera's injured, so you can say that is unlucky. Yeah. Herrera would probably be in that position there, but even in that position there, get into the box and Matic lock on to Silva, lock on to Jesus, lock on to Kevin De Bruyne, and it's this area of the pitch that I think United are negative. It's almost attack with 4 and defend with 6.
Now, against Tottenham, you can set up your tactics as much as you want, can't you? And this happens within the first 30 seconds.
Well, this is Jose Mourinho's fault because he didn't win the first header, Jose, and he didn't stay there on a Jose, and he didn't defend the goal, Jose. You know, and that's my point. Yeah. Is that you can, and we've got to pause because I need to get this off my chest, because you can set your teams up however you want, and in this game, I thought they started 20 minutes really, really fast again.
Like I said, against one of the big teams, first 15, 20
Jones
minutes.
and Smalling at fault for 2 goals. That is not Jose Mourinho's fault. That is the defenders lacking concentration on the first header and Jones not sorting his feet out for the second header.
Yeah.
And
that's fair enough. That wasn't Mourinho's fault.
No, but you blaming Jose for everything else.
No, so. I'm not.
but this was a game when, again, he got criticised for...
But they did press, though, didn't they, the first 15 minutes?
But he got criticised for negativity. And again... Now, so, we talked about it before. That's Matic.
Yeah.
That's Martial. And that is Pogba. Now, that's Lukaku.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, we said before, why aren't we locking in? Why isn't Martial coming in there? Young is actually going on. And the nice and safe...
I actually think, again, Smalling can actually get a bit tighter because he's got the insurance of Jones behind him anyway. And Valencia can probably... go a bit tighter as well, can't he?
Well, the people at home will be thinking, yeah, but actually United are in good positions. They're stopping the counter-attack, but actually you're not stopping the counter-attack.
Well, how many times did you see playing a Man United team that kept teams pinned in? You kept them in their own final third because you imposed yourselves on them and you got up the pitch and kept them there.
You've got to keep people in that section there now. Lloris has got the ball.
Or make them kick long and then win that.
You've got to make him kick long. Because what happens is, you say, how do you stop the counter-attack? You stop the counter-attack by locking on, and now look at that. That is...
They're out. With one 15-yard roll of a ball.
And United aren't even stopping anything. And if you look at the reaction of Martial there, you'd think to yourself, Salah would be in there, hunting down the second ball. De Bruyne would be in there. Jesus would be in there. And Tottenham get possession of the ball again. Yes, United are getting back into shape, but Tottenham have got possession of the ball.
So are you happy to accept that at times he is a little bit negative?
What I will say is...
Or is it just the player's fault then?
I think it's 50-50. I think his tactics are more defensive than attacking, but I think in the big games this season, his big players have let him down in the big games. Lukaku's not performed in big games. Pogba's been out injured and not performed in big games. And now you're thinking Sanchez, Rashford, Martial, come on, step up to the plate. And it doesn't come much bigger than Sunday, because for me, Sunday is almost that game where...
Top 4.
If United win, they'll finish second. If they don't, top 4 could be in danger.
Interesting. Top 6 head-to-head this season. Obviously, Man City dominating that as well as the Premier League. 15 points from their 6 games. United, I mean, it doesn't make happy reading. I know they've only played 6. Chelsea likewise. But second bottom of that table.
And it's the 3 losses is damaging.
Well, Spurs have lost 4, I suppose. Look, if they win this game against Chelsea at the weekend, all of a sudden 10 points, same as Tottenham and Liverpool. Yeah. It looks a bit healthier, doesn't it?
It does. And you know what? From now to the end of the season, United play City. They play Liverpool in a couple of weeks' time as well. They've got Chelsea. So they've got 3 games there where they've got the opportunity to actually get to the second in this table rather than being near the bottom. But like I say, to do that, I'm not so sure it's his tactics in these big games. I think it's the players now. The players need to perform to the level that they're capable of.
OK. I'll try not to anger you anymore. There are some positives, because Eric Bailly back in contention.
Him coming back, he was on the bench last night, is a massive plus from now to the end of the season for Manchester United.
Stats prove it as well.
Yeah.
Look, he's only played 8 times in the Premier League this season, but they've won 6 of them. Win percentage is 75% compared to 57.9 without him. Points per game, much better as well. So it just shows the difference that he does make when he's in the team.
I mean, I don't think you're saying it, but people are saying United are struggling defensively. They've got the best defensive record in the country. That's the perception. The perception. I think they are struggling.
We've talked about David De Gea, haven't we?
Yeah, and David De Gea has a large part to do with that. I think this lad coming back makes them even better defensively.
Certainly. Going forward, Lukaku, what have you made of him then, generally?
He's improved. I think he's improved in terms of his link-up play. I think he's playing differently now than what he did at West Brom and at Everton, where he was probably not taking that much part in the build-up to the play. I think the biggest part of his game was running in behind. But ultimately, he's being judged in big games, and he's not done that. But he's scored 21 goals, and he's played a lot of football this season.
That's key, isn't it? I mean, when you look at that, he has played more football this season than at this stage than he has in any of his previous seasons. He's played more than Harry Kane, more than Mo Salah, more than Sergio Aguero. Is he just because he hasn't got a great deal of competition with Ibrahimovic being out injured as well? He doesn't potentially trust Rashford or Martial to play through the middle. That he's being flogged a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a fatigue element in there, but I've been impressed with him over the last month because his work rate's gone up. His quality in terms of his build-up play and linking people up I think Sanchez coming in has helped him. I really do. I think his speed and mobility and his class has given him a little bit of an inspiration. But what I would say is that he's played a lot of football, and when you've got a big tag, big pressure, that is a lot of minutes to play, and there's no freshness there in his legs.
Is it a different Lukaku we're seeing now compared to, say, last season? Everton, say.
Yeah.
Everton is looking to get in the box, whereas at United he seems to become a little bit deeper, trying to get involved in the play, maybe not necessarily making those runs in behind as much as he did at Everton.
No, and I think what teams have worked out is that they actually want him to get the ball to feet, because I think he's better in behind. You saw in the FA Cup game against Huddersfield, he barges people out the way and he's powerful. I think when he gets the ball to feet, which he has at United this season, I think at times he's looked limited. But I'd say in the last month he's improved that side of his game. Like I say, having Lingard and Sanchez in and around him has helped him. But it's against his former club on Sunday. And when you spend that kind of money on somebody like Lukaku, eventually you're going to have to deliver in a big game. And I think on Sunday, he's up against Christensen, Azpilicueta and Rudiger. He has got to bully them. He's got to make sure that he takes all three on at the same time. And he's got to produce some match-winning performances. I've not remembered a game this year against any of the big sides where Martial, Rashford, Lukaku, we can take Sanchez out of it because he did it at Arsenal, have actually won a game on their own. And I think that's why Sanchez was brought in to win the big games or help United win the big games.
We'll discuss the teams in a moment, but let's move on to Chelsea. Had a sticky spell. Lost a couple of games, lost against Watford, lost against Bournemouth, and heavily in both of those games as well. Seem to have turned a corner there, a little bit happier now than they were a month ago, and happier than Man United, maybe.
Much happier. I think the ship has stabilised. I think Conte is a lot more positive in his words, which means that his team seem happier. The performance and spirit against Barcelona was fantastic. They all fought for each other. And I think the key for me is, and it's the three up front, it's going back to the system, I think, that won them the league with the three up front. And I know we'll discuss whether Hazard is a centre-forward or a left-winger, but actually playing Willian, Hazard and Pedro, all three up front, has given them a better balance.
It's interesting, actually, because with Hazard playing as the number 9, they haven't won the last 5 games. The last 5 times playing that system.
And Hazard hasn't looked as good and not looked as comfortable. I think there was a period on Tuesday night when he went from centre forward, and then they brought Morata on to the left-hand side, his favourable position. And then all of a sudden, the world looked a brighter place for him. He was picking the ball up deeper, he was linking with Morata, and he looked like the Eden Hazard that we knew.
I think we agreed, like, whether it's Hazard, Willian, +1.
Yeah.
Did you think?
Yeah, it's Giroud or Morata on Sunday.
For you?
Yeah, for me up front.
He won't play Hazard as a number 9.
He's got to play a centre-forward, I think. You need a focal point when you go away from home in the Premier League, I think. And it's interesting because, the qualities that Giroud has are different than the qualities that Morata have, and we'll get into it now. This is Giroud.
Yeah. This is against West Brom, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what do you see the qualities of Giroud?
His hold-up play is good. He tends to pin centre-halves. Rather, his movement's not particularly great. He's not someone that's going to spin in behind. He wants to come to the ball, and then when it does go wide, he wants to get on the box and try and score with his head.
Yeah, and I think that's the only similarity with Morata, is that when the ball gets into crossing positions, he's always in there to score with his head, because I think that's his biggest quality. But I think with Giroud in the side, what Chelsea have got is they've got a central figure. Yeah. They've got a figure that will stay between the widths of the
as he is now. His movement, he's hardly moved now, has he?
No, I mean, we'll highlight him again there. And I think and we'll just draw a little line there and there. He very rarely goes out the width of them two lines because he likes to work in these types of areas here, there.
Yeah.
And what he wants is, he wants the ball fed into him. He wants the ball fed into him. And almost these guys just peeling off around the back and stretching
he enjoys the likes of Hazard and Willian playing then?
He enjoys. I think it suits him perfectly. Pedro, Willian, Hazard suit him perfectly. But that's what he wants. The little darts into the box.
Yeah.
Similar to Morata. This is Morata. That's Giroud again. Again, central. And you think of Morata now. I think Morata would be making runs there or even in across there.
I think Hazard and Morata probably work better together.
Yeah.
As a pair. I think, they work off each other. One comes short, one goes long, and vice versa.
That's Giroud for me. That is Giroud. Come facing the ball.
Well, give it him then.
Yeah, I think definitely giving him. I mean, that pass should definitely come into him. But I think with Morata, and it's a difficult one to explain, but Giroud comes with his shoulders square. I think Morata comes with that half. I'm coming short, but I'm looking to turn and go forward.
Well, he's a bit more mobile, isn't he?
He's more mobile.
Morata.
Yeah. Look at him. And now when the ball goes out into the wide area, he's still central.
Well, he's looking to get in the box again. There we go. That's
central. That's central, and he's looking to get between the centre-backs. And that's where Morata finds himself a lot of the time too. Chelsea nearly score. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. When I think of Giroud at Arsenal, I think of this. Balls played into him, runners around him, lay off one or two touch, body strength, pinning a defender. And I think that's why Hazard and Pedro and Willian are good around him. It was a good signing.
Mm-hmm. This is his touch match. He was on an hour against West Brom. And I think it highlights, actually, pretty much what you just said about him playing the width of the 18-yard box. If we highlight that area, I mean, how many touches actually are outside of that 18-yard box width? 1, 2, 3, 4.
There's 4 touches.
So 4 of his 51.
He very rarely makes runs into these channels. Either way, that may be for a throw-in that he touches the ball there, but very rarely does he find himself out in those channels. So what this allows you to do, it allows you to have a focal point in the team. You know that wherever you are on the pitch, Giroud will be between the 18-yard box. And I think he was a good signing. The question is, who would you much rather play against? This is Morata.
Well, it's a different position straight away.
Yeah, well, straight away he's outside the width of the 18-yard box.
On the half-turn.
On the half-turn, looking to run in behind. So you think of Hazard receiving the ball there. I think Giroud will be there, coming to face the ball for maybe a straight pass. But no, I think he's looking to make the run in behind there, Morata, because that's what he's good at. He's got the mobility. Look, he's peeling off into wide areas. Giroud will never be out there. And when he receives it, he's positive. Giroud will be playing 1 or 2 touch. But what Morata's looking for
You wouldn't see him do that, Giroud,
no,
would you?
He hasn't got that quality.
I think it's tougher to play against, isn't he? Morata.
Who would you rather play against, Giroud or Morata?
I think you'd rather someone that stayed still or tended to stay in the same sort of position, so you're not getting dragged out into areas that you don't want to.
No.
If you're a centre-half, what you don't want to be doing, so centre-half here, what you don't want to be doing is getting dragged out over here into this position to a wider position where you perhaps haven't got the pace to deal with it. When you've got someone like Giroud who sits up against you, I think you're quite happy.
Well, that's Morata, but if that was Giroud now, I would be saying, if I was Alan Pardew...
Go and get tight.
Go and get really tight.
Well, you know he's not going to spin.
Because he's not going to make that movement into there, but Morata does, and Morata can do both. So when the ball comes into him, eventually, look at him moving his position all the time. Doesn't get the first one, doesn't get the second one.
But he's looking in behind.
And now he's made the run in behind, and that's where I think...
He stretched it up the pitch. It'd leave more space for Hazard, surely.
More unpredictability. Hazard gets the ball there, but it's the run. It's the run of Morata.
See, I think this is... I'm just going to take it back slightly, because this is this combination, I think, between Hazard and Morata, which is where I think he prefers. If I just highlight Hazard here, and watch him slowly, I'll do it slowly. He has a little glance as to where his teammate is. Look, there he is. He has a little glance. He knows where he is. He comes short, and he knows that his teammate's on the spin.
Do you know when you talk about centre-forward play? And it's a great clip. It's a great clip to show, because the minute that Hazard is going to the ball there now, there's 2 options. Either Hazard just flicks it round the corner.
Yeah.
We'll do that again. We'll just flicks it round the corner to Morata, or he does a dummy, Or Morata then realises he peels round the front. So he doesn't get the ball, Morata, and now he's into the space. And that's where I think the combination between Hazard and Morata and Willian and Pedro is better than Giroud. Again, he's in the box there. That's a Giroud position because we know that he likes crosses into the box. Chelsea are building up play. They're playing good one-touch combinations. But it's the movement of Morata. Look, he comes to the ball, receives.
It's just a bit sharper, isn't he?
He is. And the minute he lays it off, look at him, he gets into the box.
Yeah.
And that is fantastic. It's a goal by Hazard, but who's the first to maybe knock it in as well? It's Morata. So the decision on Sunday is, what do? Do they go for the central physical presence of Giroud, or do they go for the mobility of Morata?
Well, and again, it's interesting because he was only on for, I think, half an hour, was it, against
30 minutes.
West Brom? And if we now have a look at that, that's in 16 touches compared to Giroud's 51. 5 of his 16 touches outside that width of that 18-yard box.
Which tells you, and he does particularly like to work the left channel. That's his that was where he worked at Juventus and Real Madrid. He liked to peel out into that left-hand side, but he has got more flexibility. But you know what? It's a good option. It's a good option for either if one comes on the bench, one starts, or vice versa.
Right, let's have a look at the teams then. Now you're going to have to try and pick the sides. I actually think, from a Chelsea point of view, it's pretty easy to pick. I think the back three picks itself at the moment. Cahill's struggling a little bit. The only two positions I think are up for grabs are Fabregas and Giroud.
Yeah.
I think Willian has played himself into the team now.
Yeah.
His performances of late. Hazard plays, without a doubt. The two wing-backs are pretty much set. I think the options are Morata for Giroud, and does he go a little bit more defensive and say, right, I'm going to put Drinkwater in alongside Kante? Shape will be the same. It'll be a back three, two wing-backs.
The shape stays the same. The system stays the same. The only thing I would say is...
Or the other argument would be to do Pedro, I suppose, in that position. Hazard goes there, but again, results haven't been great with Hazard as a number 9.
No,
so he's not going to do that.
I'm not so sure he's going to do that.
So Morata or Giroud for you?
Well, go back to the two decisions. It's Fabregas or Drinkwater.
So who do you pick?
Well, I don't think he'll go Fabregas. I think having been...
He's just done it against Barcelona.
Yeah, but I think it's whether he can go again at Old Trafford. 2 big pitches, 2 high-profile games. He's got a game midweek next week as well. I think he'll go Drinkwater, and I'm going for Morata up front, purely and simply because of his mobility.
Will Jose Mourinho, I think it's much more difficult to select the Man United team. We don't know what shape he's going to pick.
Impossible.
We don't know the personnel.
Yeah.
Will he have a plan for this man, which he has done? He's had Jones man mark him. He's had Herrera man mark him.
Well, I think we've come up with 2 options, haven't we? We've come up with the system that he played at Stamford Bridge early in the season, which is the 3 at the back. We've gone for Rocco, Smalling and Bailly. Can Bailly lock onto Hazard? Can he this system here? Can Bailly pick up Hazard when he comes into his zone? You've got a 3 in midfield, which means that Pogba doesn't get exposed in a 2, which I think is really important. Chelsea play a 2 in there with Kante and Fabregas. So can United dominate the middle of the pitch?
Yeah.
And can we get 2 up top? And I've put Shaw in here because he doesn't trust Shaw as a left-back, I don't think, in the big games. But I think in a wing-back position, one-on-one versus Victor Moses, I think he'd be able to handle that. He'll be able to play further up the pitch. It suits Antonio Valencia, and it gets United with all these numbers. Look at them numbers. 3 defenders, 3 midfield players, 2 central figures. Sanchez can have the freedom to go like that. So that would be the system that I would probably tend to sway towards, bearing in mind how he went at Stamford Bridge.
What do you think he will do then? That's what you'd select. What will Jose Mourinho do? Let's go back to the first one.
Yeah.
And let's go to the home team. Do you think that's more likely?
That is probably more likely. But I think what that team does, it exposes a couple of things that we know at the moment he's not happy with. It exposes Pogba. Yeah. Pogba's last game in there in a big game was Tottenham, when he ended up over right, left, anywhere but central. And it's who he plays on the right. The right-hand side is a big problem for him. Sanchez likes to play on the left, so that rules out Rashford and Martial on the left-hand side. And I'm not so sure it's a game for Juan Mata to come in, although he has been playing well on that right-hand side. So, me personally, in this system, I think he's got to get Rashford back in the side.
Yeah, bit of extra pace. So, if that's the team, what you think it'd be a back 4 with Rashford and
yes, I think it'll be a back 4. I think that would be the system.
If these are the teams that we've now selected, who's going to come out on top?
Oh, well, last season, Jose...
Actually, I don't know why I
won the
asked you
day.
this.
No, last season, Jose won the day in terms of man marking Hazard with Herrera.
And will he do that, I think?
I think he'll go for it. I think he has to go for it. I just think in terms of you're measuring teams off the happiness in the camp, you sway to Chelsea. If you think...
And particularly the performances of late.
Performances of late have improved. I think it's going to be a draw. I really cannot see how both teams...
do you know what? After all that, I wasn't expecting you to say draw.
No.
I was expecting you to say Man United.
Look, I'm a little bit like you at the minute. The negativity from you's rubbed off on me. I'm a little bit negative towards United because I don't think they're playing that well.
Would you take a scrappy 1-0 defensive performance?
No, look, as an ex-Manchester United player, you want them to go out there and play with how you want a Manchester United team to play, with freedom, expression, but... I don't think in big games you can just turn it on. But it could just be another Jose masterclass. You just never know. But I think it's going to be really tight.
Fascinating game, that's for sure. We're looking forward to it. It's Sunday, of course.